It's a pleasure and an honor that you're here chairing us. So you were very good to do that. I've met some of your former students, so I know your influence is far and wide. And it's a delight to be here with Anne and Laura. We are all co-conspirators in trying to shake up the way people think about international politics. And we've got our work cut out for us, but now there's a whole gang of us, if you will, globally, that are doing this work, and the students are continuing to teach us, which is the best. You know you're alive if you still have things to learn, right? Let me start with just a quick comment, and I don't mean to embarrass, well, I do, of course. I was gonna say I don't mean to embarrass, but I actually do mean to embarrass the people, the wonderful people in NICE who put together this remarkable conference, which is so impressive. But take a look at your own website and look at the image you put up for security. That was when you were listing what NICE's different topics of investigation and discussion are. And when you put up your image of your interest in security, what did you put up? You put up a jet fighter plane, a military plane. And here's the thing to be on the lookout for. Feminists, all kinds of feminists, we watch everything, don't we, Anu? We watch everything. And so we watch people's web pages. We watch what you casually think security looks like. And if you think security looks like a military assault weapon, we notice. So let me say something about militarism and why feminists who are interested in international politics have really taken on militarism in all its many forms. First, we do it not only as gender specialists, we do it increasingly calling ourselves feminists. And why do we do that? One of the things I think we've all learned, and we'll all have different interpretations of this, and in the discussion, maybe some of you who are participants can ask us again what we mean by each of us when we say we're feminist, gender, and international relations specialists. Why do we say feminist? I think for me, I began saying feminist when I described my own approach to international politics analysis, is because I'm interested in power. I'm interested in ideas. I'm interested in the ways that ideas and practices, assumptions, beliefs, I'm interested in the way they shape power, the uses of power, and people who are at the other end of power operations. That is, I say I'm a feminist, not just a gender analyst, because I'm interested in power. And whenever I watch gender at work in anything, as both Anne and Laura described the array of things we're all interested in, including political economy, when we are interested, we never take our eyes off of power. That is what gives us a feminist approach to investigating the workings of gender and IR. And one of the things that I've learned over the years, both Anne and Laura and I are continuing to be learners. One of the things I've learned about myself over the years, I started out studying ethnicity, race, and militaries way back when I had no feminist or not enough feminist curiosity, but I was very interested in race and ethnicity in militaries, which is one of the reasons I studied the Pakistani, the Indian, the Indonesian, the Nepalese militaries. One of the things that I realized when I became more feminist in my investigations is that all those years, I'll whisper it because it's a big secret, all those years, I underestimated power. I underestimated what it took to recruit either an insurgent or a state military. I underestimated what it took to deploy either a state navy. We were just listening in the session before about navies. We underestimated what it takes for states to wage war. We underestimated how much power was at work, how much thinking was at work. So one of the first things that I learned about militarism is you cannot raise a state military and sustain a state military, and you cannot deploy the way state officials would like to deploy a state military, whether it's be for peacekeeping operations or for defense operations or for aggressive operations. You cannot deploy a state military unless you think about mothers. Well, feminists think about mothers. They think about how much effort every government's defense ministry puts into trying to control the emotions and the active support or not of women in their role as mothers. They think about it. Just a minute, let me just get this so it goes off. And that was a breakthrough for me, to think that as a political scientist, I was trained at University of California at Berkeley in the 1960s, when we all thought we were radical. Well, it turned out we weren't radical enough. We probably weren't radical at all. But anyway, certainly weren't radical enough because we thought you could understand militarism, war waging. You thought you could understand it without taking seriously how much governments expend power trying to control the emotions and the ideas and the actions of mothers. Well, that means that as a non-feminist student of militaries, this is back in the 1970s, I was underestimating power. Second thing we did, all of us, and a lot of us still do on this call, and that is we don't think about girlfriends and we don't think about wives. We think that a state can simply deploy a military on a peacekeeping operation, as the Nepalese military is deployed, or on defensive operations or on aggressive operations. We think that any military can be deployed without government spending a lot behind the scenes so that the rest of us won't notice. That is, we as citizens or we as people in neighboring countries won't notice that the government is spending a lot of effort to exert pressure on the women married to the mostly male militaries. Militaries around the world are still overwhelmingly male, at least 85% in most countries, even more. That government officials spend a lot of time trying to pressure women as wives to go along with their husband's deployment, even though it's dangerous, maybe it's reckless, maybe it's futile, or maybe it's just dangerous. And most of us who don't use a feminist curiosity, therefore underestimate government's workings of power, because we don't watch the efforts to control wives, we don't watch the efforts to control girlfriends, we don't watch the efforts to control mothers. And a lot of you out there who haven't been trained in feminist analytical skills probably think, I don't know anything about mothers. Well, of course you have one, but I don't know anything about mothers. I don't know how to investigate mothers. And what Anne and Laura and all our growing number of analyst friends would say to you, okay, so learn how to think about women's relationships to militarization. Because one of the things we've learned is you cannot militarize a society, get its support for a overlarge defense budget, get support for the military having more and more authority in domestic affairs, get support for the military being deployed. You cannot do that unless you persuade a lot of women as well as men to think it's in their interest. And this brings to a second aspect here, and that is that when feminist gender analysts of international politics do their investigations, again, including of overseas migration for paid labor, for instance, Nepali men going to Doha to work as security guards in hotels, for instance. In all of those instances, What we investigate are not just where are the women and where are the men. We always ask, where are the women? And as Laura warned us, intersectionally, we think about all kinds of women. If we think about Sri Lanka, we think about, does it matter if you're a Tamil woman or if you're a Sinhalese woman? We ask that. But we also ask about ideas. We watch the workings of ideas, things that humans, we dream up. And we dream up a lot, by the way. What we dream up about what is really manly and what is really the true woman. We watch that because we know that ideas about what is a real man and ideas about what is a real woman, those are all in quotes. Real is always in quotes, that's ideas. We know that those play core roles in international politics as well as in domestic politics. Is it a real man to go overseas to work as a security guard in Doha because he becomes an income earner for the family, and that's what masculinity is all about in a marriage? But it's also about wielding ideas about femininity and masculinity in international affairs for the sake of militarism. And we've watched it, we've charted it, we've documented it, and we continue to watch it. And that is that men often wield ideas about femininity. Watch the bouncing ball here, everybody. Men in positions of military and foreign, and oftentimes treasury finance politics, wield ideas about femininity to intimidate other men. Now, you can only do this. That is, a man can only try to embarrass or intimidate another man by calling him a girl or saying, stop being like a woman, which does happen, man to man. You can only use that as a weapon of intimidation if you don't respect femininity. That is, that the wielding of ideas about femininity can only be used as a verbal narrative weapon, which is a form of weaponry, narrative is. You can only do it if you are in a society that thinks that anything that is feminine is of lesser value, of lesser merit, of lesser seriousness, of lesser rationality, of lesser toughness, as Anne said, than anything that's masculine. That's called patriarchy. So when I chart the remilitarization of Myanmar, I do watch how young men have gotten recruited. I do watch their families. I do watch those men who reject it in Myanmar, thousands of them now. And they are standing up to or challenging ideas about what is a real man. A real man is a small d Democrat. Well, that's quite a different notion that a real man is a soldier. So I'd like to stop at this point, but just say that the kinds of things we watch are where are real women in all their diversity, where are real men, actual men, sorry, not real, forget about real, that's too loaded, actual women in all their diversity, where are actual men in all their diversity and all the gender fluid people in between, where are they? Watch them. And then watch ideas about masculinity and ideas about femininity. And you'll have your plate full. Thanks.